loud. First thing I'm going to do is I am going to share my screen with you so I can walk you through the agenda as we are going along. If, as time goes along, you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat box. I've got Jason Stevenson on the line today. He's going to help me monitor the chat box and follow along. Thanks, guys, for coming in today. My name is Robin Glinsman. I am Director of Gifted and Talented and Advanced Placement at the State Department of Education. And I hope to have some resources and some answers to a lot of questions that you have today. As you can see on the agenda, I've also listed a few other names. It is good for you to know that in every content area at the State Department of Education, we have a director that is your direct link for what you teach. And so I've listed those here. Jason Stevenson is Director of Secondary ELA. Christine Kerner is Secondary Mathematics. Brenda Chapman is Social Studies. Kathleen Skinner is World Languages. And Elizabeth Mon is Fine Arts. I also should have put on here Karen Leonard. She does computer science, so I'll link hers later. But this team is amazing, and they help support you in your content area as well as helping support me in the AP classes that you teach. So make sure you reach out to them if you have some questions. And then right now we are without a director of science. So Tiffany Neal is doing that directing. She's wearing a few hats. So she will be our director of science right now at this point. So these are going to be the people that you can reach out to with questions as this thing called distance learning continues, and hopefully we can get all of the answers for you. But one of the things I want to talk about before we get started today, really jumping into College Board resources and things, is how important self-care is going to be during these next few weeks as we make this transition into distance learning. You need to make sure that you're taking care of yourself so that we can take care of our students. This is week 3 for us at the State Department working from home, and it has been quite the adjustment of learning to work and to live all in the same space and being home with my kids and my husband and all of us 24 hours a day. So make sure you're taking care of yourself. It's really hard to walk away from the work at the end of the day when that time comes, but I encourage you to find a way to separate work and home. I'm working in our home office or spare bedroom, and I literally shut the door to this room when I leave in the afternoons. So try to find a way to separate that space. I know you want to be everything that your students need, but they need you first and foremost to be taken care of. And so make sure that you are taking care of yourself. Identify some support structures at home and within your family. I have a couple of non-educator girlfriends that I reach out to every couple of days that just via Zoom or FaceTime that I can just be real with and, you know, just talk to them and see what they're cooking for dinner and how are they handling things. Also, there's no right or wrong as we go forward. So give yourself grace as we go along. During my first GT meeting this morning, my internet went out because 4 of us are streaming all at the same time on the same wireless account. So give yourself grace to make mistakes, but then we just pick ourselves up and we just keep moving forward. So take care of yourself and make sure you pass those messages along. Our high school students need to hear the same thing, especially our seniors as they're grieving right now, the end of school and not being able to finish the year out like they thought. Make sure they know the importance of taking care of themselves.
Okay. I'll be back.
The other thing I want to make sure you know is that you, what is this thing called distance learning that we're going through? And distance learning is just meaning that we are going to create a continuous learning opportunity from April 6th to the end of the year. And that may or may not include technology. Distance learning and online learning are not synonyms right now. And we need to remember that because for where many of you are, there's not technology access because there's not broadband or our students don't have the technology resources at home. So we're going to be helping you think about what does distance learning look like with and without technology. And in the world of AP, that's going to be super important that you are advocating to College Board at this time if your students do not have technology. And so they've made it abundantly clear that they want to hear from you. And I'm going to show you today in just a couple of minutes how you can reach out to College Board and advocate for yourself and for your students. Your district is actively working right now to create a local distance learning plan. Your administrators probably started as soon as they heard the message come from the board meeting last Wednesday, and they're starting to think about what does distance learning look like for you and your students and your community. Every district is going to look differently. Even schools within the same district may look differently. So we have to make sure that we are paying attention to what our district is setting forth. District will go forward with what does it look like, and they will even answer that question of what are we going to grade. Those are local control decisions. We at the State Department have helped create some guidelines or some recommendations, but that's exactly what they are. They're just recommendations. Your district will move forward. If you haven't heard from your district at this point, you will be hearing from them. This distance learning begins a week from today. So we're still in that 2-week period after spring break where no teaching or learning has to happen. It can happen, but it doesn't have to happen. You also have to give yourself permission to try new things, see what works, see what doesn't work. Like I said, we at the State Department, we're on week 3 right now, and we keep changing our processes each week as we try to learn new things, as we're adding new pieces in. And so we're learning what works, what doesn't work. And so we're figuring those things out. So for those of you that just joined us on the call, we've had some come in at the last minute. So excited to have you all come in. I have just thrown the chat box, or in the chat box, I've thrown the agenda. So you have access to that. Also make sure that you are muted. So if you look at the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, make sure that you are muted so that it cuts down on the background noise. What I want to do now is I want to take us directly to College Board's website, and I want to make sure that you are seeing the most updated information and where they are sending out their information. They're updating it on a consistent basis, and I want to make sure you know. So today in the agenda, anything that is blue and underlined is a direct link to an outside source. So what I'm going to do is just click on this AP update here, and I'm going to send you. This is AP Central, and this is the latest information. You'll notice College Board is doing a couple of things to help us know if it's the latest information. So they are putting dates at the top. So they're always making sure that this is the most recent information that is on there. So you'll always be able to see that for you. This is going to be information for you as a teacher, as an AP coordinator, as an AP principal or administrator. This is going to be a place for you to get information. So the one thing that they started first and foremost here that I want to make sure you are aware of is that AP students will not be taking a regular exam at this point. This will not be in classrooms because many districts across the nation are not going back. So what this will look like is a 45-minute online response, open response for our students. So this is why I said it is super important that you're sharing information to College Board if your students are not able to access technology. There will be 2 different test dates, as it says right here, that they will be able to, students will be able to take their test and choose which one. Some students may want to take their test more quickly than others. Some may want to wait. Also, some of your students may be taking multiple exams. So there are multiple dates here. So that information is right here very clearly. The exact dates have not been added in. So as you can see right here, it says that the test dates will be created by April 3rd. So that you can expect that to be given to us by the end of the week. So you'll be able to see that from them. So as we're going along, if you have any questions that we're going along, the chat box is going to be the best way to get your information. Jason Stevenson is monitoring that chat box, so he'll be able to answer any questions. A couple of things that I want to draw your attention to right here on this piece in the middle is it says clearly that any student already registered for an exam can choose to cancel at no charge. There will be some of your students that at this time don't feel like they want to take that exam, so they can cancel their order without that $40 charge. So that's very important for you to know. Also, we have reached the deadline and we have gone past it, so no new students can order exams. If they have not ordered at this point, they will not be able to order. How would a student cancel an exam? That's one way that a student needs to reach out to you as the AP teacher, or they need to reach out to the AP coordinator, because the cancellation will need to come through the APC or your AP coordinator. When I talked to College Board last week and I talked with Arlene Williams, and she's on the line and we'll give her a chance to speak in a minute, she talked about how more resources would be going back to the AP coordinators, and they're getting things together as fast as they can at College Board, but this is just such a fluid time right now. So we really appreciate your patience. Colleges support this solution. So when College Board made this choice to turn this into an online exam, they did reach out to the colleges, and colleges did support this. So do let your students know that as they are going through and they're worried about will they get credit for this, they will get credit for that. So that is something that many students are worried about. Students will be able to take their streamlined exam on any advice they had. They can take photo of handwritten work will be an option. It doesn't have to be tech. But right here, this blue link right here that says reach out to let us know directly. This is a link for you. You can speak up on behalf of your students. You can send this out to them, but this will take you directly to College Board and fill out information about students who are having connectivity issues, whether broadband's not available or whether they don't have access to a computer or any other internet-ready device. This link is right here. I will be following up today's virtual meeting with an email to all of you. That link will be in that email, so you will be able to forward it out to others as you are passing this information on for others who were not in there. Below this here is information about each of the assessments, and I want to draw your attention to this box right here, because the majority of the schools in the country stopped their teaching before the year was over. College Board is clearly aware that you did not get to cover all of the content that you wanted to cover. And so what they have done is they have taken a look and seen what was most likely to already be covered in a class and what was likely not to be covered. So this table here will show you what questions, what units they will come from, and what units they will not come from. So this is important information for your students to know, so they can see that not everything that is in the book will be on that AP test. That is super important for them to understand at this point. So that box is very important for them to see. And as you can tell, these boxes are blank. This is where the AP dates of the assessments will go. And so we're going to get those updated as College Board has more information. So I'm going to stop at this point for just a second, and we're going to check up on the chat box. I'm also going to ask Arlene Williams, because I know Arlene is on here. Arlene, if you can unmute yourself, actually I just unmuted you. If you want to come in, Arlene, and share anything with everyone on board and share things from the College Board perspective that I may have missed or gotten wrong, I would love for you to handle that right now.
Good afternoon, everybody. So Robin, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. Is there a way to make yourself just a little bit louder?
Let me see.
If not, people can just turn the volume up on their computers.
Okay, I will try. Is that better?
That's perfect.
That's as loud as it goes on my computer.
That's great. Arlene, thanks for joining us today.
How's that?
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Okay. So a couple of things. I know that you guys probably have a lot of question about the details, and what the program is telling us is that it will all be posted on April the 3rd. So some of the details that I'm reading in the chat about exam dates and canceling exams and how all of that is going to work will be posted by or on April the 3rd. One thing that you did mention about APCs having to cancel exams, my recommendation is that you wait on that, because right now you'd have to figure out a way how to get in contact with all your students and figure out which ones are going to cancel and which ones are going to test. I know that they are working on a process to make that easier for APCs and for students. Not sure what that's going to look like, whether it will be somehow we're going to let the APC knows which students have tested or which students have canceled. So I can't speak to that. I just know that what the program has said is that they're going to create a way that will be in the best interest of APCs with the challenges that we know that they are facing having to work remotely. So I would recommend just waiting on that until the 3rd, until that information is posted for you to get the details on that. The other question that I saw in the chat that I wanted to respond to is about the courses that are available and what they're actually going to cover. So I think it was Amy who asked the question, is the course going to cover more than what the exam is going to be on? And that's correct. So the exam is actually only going to cover 75% of the course, but the online courses that are available will actually cover content that is not going to be assessed, but that's because the students who get credit for these courses are going to be expected to know the content from those courses for the follow-up courses that they'll be taking when they get to their colleges or universities. But the program has created within each of the courses, there will be ample time for them to review. There will be at the end of each course, online course, there is a review part. So tell the students not to panic in that. We just have to make sure that we have, that students are well prepared for whatever happens after the course. Does that make sense, Robin?
Yeah, that does make sense.
Okay.
So Arlene, there's a couple of questions that have come up. I'm trying to go through the chat box here, and I'm gonna popcorn these out to you, Arlene. But teachers, I just wanna say Arlene has been so amazing in helping me understand and learn all this, but I do know that Arlene doesn't have all the answers either. But we are writing down every question you ask. We will post this recording as well as the chat questions and answers to them. So if you are watching this recorded, you will get the answers and you'll be able to see the chat box. And those of you watching live, we're going to get you answers as soon as they come available. But the one question was about chemistry. There are 16 labs required for chemistry. Do we know what they're doing about waiving the labs or that requirement?
I do not. I do know that if you go onto the site for each of the contents, they have posted new outlines or course outlines for what they're going to be covering in the online courses. So that may give you some idea of which of the labs the students are going to need to be familiar with and need to have experience with. But I don't know how they're going to work that into the content and into the exam. But my understanding is that they've updated all of the courses with new course outlines to say, this is what's going to be on the assessment, on the shortened assessment.
Excellent. And teachers, I will make sure that you, in the email you get today that is going to follow up this, I will make sure every link shared with you today is in that email with a very specific description of what the link is going to. And I will make sure to get the link to those pages so that you can see. I noticed some of the art teachers are already talking about how they've found where that resources have been answered. What Arlene said, I want to reiterate about the fees and collecting and all of the charges and what will be charged to the school and what will be, all of that information will be out by this Friday, the 3rd. So we will make sure that that information is talked about in next week's virtual chat. We will be having these virtual meetups once a week. So because we don't have all of those answers at this point and that guidance is still coming from College Board, we're going to hold off on collecting of money and cancellation and what fees to collect and all of that till next week. Like Arlene said, all of that will come out. Arlene, this is a question that came up about accommodations. So students who might have had accommodations, how will those be served as our students are taking online tests at home?
So they are working on that as well. What the process that Edward has said that they're trying to finalize the exams first. So once they get all of the exams finished, then they have a whole team of folks who are then going to work on making sure that the accommodations that are usually allowable on the exams are continued to be allowed. So we do know that that is a concern and an ask. It is of the utmost importance to College Board that all students have access to the test in the same way that they normally would have had access to accommodations, and that they'll be able to show what they know and do their best work as well. So students who had received accommodations before will receive accommodations on the shortened assessment. It may look a little different, but we're working with the special education team and with the assessment team to make sure that that happens.
So someone asked about security and online testing, and I know that's something that is of the utmost importance to College Board because we are in unprecedented times, and this is a very unprecedented way to take an AP exam. So Arlene, is there something you can talk about as far as security? How do we know that the student is actually the one taking the exam, and some of the ways that they're guarding against plagiarism?
So I know that we have purchased some sort of software tool or device that's going to help us to identify if they've copied materials or plagiarized materials and some other of those types of things. As far as making sure that the student who is supposed to be taking the exam is the one who's sitting for the exam, that's a great question that I'll make sure to take back to the program team. Again, there's a group of folks that are out there, not just working on test security, but working on so that we don't create unintended barriers. I know that in the secure system, if you're using My Classroom, there was a secure environment that teachers and students had to go through when they were accessing the secure test. What we learned was that some students from their home devices couldn't access that materials because of that secure environment. So I know that we've created a separate an alternative way for teachers to continue to use those secure materials in a different way. So if you happen to log on to the item bank or the question bank, you'll see a screen in that new secure area that's going to ask you some additional questions and explain to you what that process is going to look like, because we're having to make sure that the exam is secure, but also make sure that students have access. So my understanding is that is also going to be one of the things that will be rolled out on Friday.
Excellent. So another question that's come up is for our capstone classes and for art, Arlene, it says right here that there's a digital portfolio due. Do you know how they'll be submitting that digital portfolio?
I do not, but I do know that they're working on all of the portfolios to figure out one of the issues that we know is that some of the art students, how they left their portfolios actually in their classrooms. And so there's a whole set of issues around the portfolios and how to get them submitted and what that's going to look like. So that information should be available as well. I know that the teachers and APCs and everyone is wanting a lot of these details, and I promise you they're coming. We appreciate your diligence and your concern with wanting to help your students to get this done in a way that's authentic and it's as not so cumbersome. We are working on the back end fast and furious to get that information to you, but also to make sure that you all have the information that you need. I did read in one of the questions is to make sure that you all receive the information. All I can say is read your emails. We are sending out emails to APCs, to AP teachers. There's information being posted in the APC and the teacher communities. Students are also receiving emails because we now have access to them through the new APRO system. So you'll oftentimes get an email from College Board with updates and links and all of that information on a daily basis. So if you have access to your work email or your personal email, whichever one we have on file, that's where you're going to get the most up-to-date information that is available. And it is coming out daily. So if you have not been receiving an email pretty much every day from the College Board, then I would contact customer service to find out why.
And Julie, that's a really great point. You brought up about AP Art and Design. Many of our students didn't expect not to come back after spring break. So some of the work is left there. I know that districts are working feverishly right now to think about how to get kids back in school in a safe and healthy manner. There are schools that have done it where they've brought in certain grade levels at a time and even certain alphabetical letters. And so that is really something to think about of how do we get students back into a school to gather the materials they have, or those with art and design, how do we get those materials home to the students to finish up their work? So Julie, that's a great point. We will make sure that we get information to you specifically on art and design and information about that so that we can make sure that those students are prepared at home as best as possible. I want to cover one more question here that was a great one about calculators. So if students have to download a calculator to their device to actually take the exam, Arlene, do you know if that calculator will be blocked or locked out, or is it still a little early to determine that in regards to taking the test?
It's still a little early. They are still working on, again, how to make sure that that the technology that they're building into the exams are going to be ones that students can access from any device. So my understanding is that students will have everything they need within the online exam. So because the question has come up, do we need to check out calculators to students? So our recommendation is if you have them, that would be great so that they can use them to practice on or use them if they need them, but they will not be required to have one to test. That will be within the technology. Does that make sense, Robin?
That makes complete sense. That does. And then a great question has been asked about these exam questions. The free response questions, will they be similar to what they normally see on an AP exam or a practice exam, or will there be substantial changes to the nature of the question themselves?
That's a great question, and I don't know. I do know that this process that we're using is not one that is unique to what the College Board has used before. It is typically what we use when, for whatever reason, a student is unable to sit for the full exam. There are always mitigating circumstances where we've had to use this sort of process. My understanding is what we are doing is taking a process that we have used in the past and just scaled it up to make it large enough to cover the May 2020 exam process. So I don't know if there are going to be substantial changes, quite honestly, because I don't know what they look like before, because I've never seen the exams before. But I do think that that's a great question that I will take back and make sure that there will be an FAQ that will be, should be posted, if not on April the 3rd, pretty close around on the Friday or the Monday. So that's one of the questions that we include in that FAQ document.
Yeah. And I appreciate you guys asking these questions. Arlene is feverishly writing on her end. I guarantee you all of these things, and you can be guaranteed that they will go up the chain there at College Board. She will advocate for us. She is our strongest advocate there at College Board. And so I appreciate her taking time out of her day. I am back on the agenda right here, right now. So I want to show you where that link was. I was right here on the AP updates for schools. It had exam information. I've given you a direct link right here to the questions College Board were asking about remote learning and what needs your students have. And so this is a direct link where they're asking about what type of technology do they have at home? What are the needs? And what for connectivity and tools. Be your students' advocates. You know your students better than anyone else. So make sure you're reaching out to them. Be making contact right now, whether it's through a good old-fashioned phone call, a visit, an email, a text message, pushing things out via Remind or other ways that you use, and make sure you know if your students have access to this. So that will be a big plus on your part to go ahead and start collecting that information. I know many of you are sitting in large districts, and we're talking about hundreds of students. And so make sure that you're spreading the wealth and sharing these out. And also the turnaround time from College Board may be a little delayed because you remember they're hearing from all 50 states. And so they themselves are working as fast as they can to get this information processed on their end and going forward. The
Robin,
other website, go forward, Arlene.
I just want to say I cannot encourage you enough to go in and provide us information on the needs of your students for device and connectivity. So that survey is for both. You can go in for one student, or if you're a district, an APC or assistant superintendent can go in and fill out the form for their entire district. What we are trying to do right now is assess the needs. And we know that there are not just rural schools that have problems with device and connectivity, but there are some urban schools that have issues as well. But we have community partners and third-party partners who have indicated that they are willing and ready to help out. We just need to be able to figure out first, where is the need, how much of the need is, and then be able to figure out how do we deploy what that looks like. So please, if you have not gone in and filled out the survey for an individual, and it's okay if there's duplicates, because we have people in our system who is going through every single one of these and trying to match up need with a resource. But please make sure that your students aren't left out as we are gathering information on what they need to be able to access these exams.
So Arlene, if someone is going to go in on behalf of a student, like it's the teacher because the student doesn't have access, would the teacher put down that they're the teacher or that they're the student?
They're the teacher, because it's
Okay.
adaptive based on your role. So the questions that will populate beyond that first screen is based on what you say that your role is. It'll ask, if you're a teacher, how many students are you talking about? What area that you're in? So once you tell them what your role is, the questions will then populate based on that role. And you can, for 1 student, for 5 students, for 500 students, it's going to ask you where your area is, whether you need devices, whether it's you've got devices, you're just worried about connectivity, or whether you need both. And it's also going to ask you to provide the best way to contact you. So that's important, because I know that there are folks in the College Board who are calling every single person to confirm that the information that we received, or to gather more details if needed.
Excellent. So people were asking where it was. I've put a box around it here. So if you're accessing the agenda, it's right here, the student access to technology. It was sent out in an email. The other place it's been coming up is if you're watching some of the live tutoring sessions, your students may also have seen it there. I had a teacher last week send it to me because she saw it there. So there'll be a couple of places, but make sure that you're advocating for it. If you can never in this time be too sure that your students have seen things. So make sure that you're sending it on to them maybe a couple of times as a reminder. I want to show you another page that College Board is keeping updated here. And this is the AP Students page. So you're getting information, and I want to make sure that you also know what your students are getting as information. So right now, College Board is offering 2 ways to access content while they're not face-to-face with you. So there is a section here for online AP courses. This is the YouTube channels. There is a YouTube channel set up for each one of the content areas that is full of information. These are some great sessions that were live and now they've been recorded, or there's other things that are on there. So there's some great places there. If your students aren't aware of them, you can access them there. I want to remind you that the content being pushed out to your students covers 2 things. One, it covers what is on the exam, but it also covers what is not on the exam. It is going to go past the exam, so these colleges that are accepting the AP scores of your students know that your students were exposed to as much of that curriculum as possible. So make sure your students are aware of that. If you've let them know what the test is over and they write back to you and say, whoa, this was over another chapter or another unit, make sure they are aware of that and they're not pushing that part away, that they are paying attention. The other thing that is important for your students to know is one on the AP schedule. So you can click here on the AP schedule and it shows you the daily schedule for what classes are live at that time. Every one of these sessions is recorded, so it will be available on demand. But as you can see, the day is full of things. Now, not every course is on here just yet. They're still finding ways to plug those in. These are taught by current AP teachers and the trainers. The sessions I sat in on a few calculus ones last week, and they were great. The benefit of going to the live one is the teachers do take questions. And so the students, or even you as the teacher, are able to ask questions at the end of that 45-minute block. These are all recorded and they are moved over to the YouTube. If you're curious and you want to look at it by by topic, you can go here and access that. You can hit the expand. Now, some of them, they don't have the classes prepared yet, and they will be adding those in. It says come back for more information. And thank you, Eileen. Yes, please note these are Eastern time. These are not Central time. So we got to think that we're an hour ahead. So be aware of that. I appreciate seeing that there. So these are resources for your students, but I wanted you to know that you had access to these and you could see them. And again, right here, College Board is very upfront that the concepts are from the first 75%, and that's where the test is. And then there is the last 25% that they're still going to cover. Arlene, is there anything that you want to add about the student resources that are available for the students?
Just one more thing. We know that this is online and that there are some schools that may not, or students who may not have access to online. We are also working on how they can get access to paper pencil or some other ways if they're not able to view the lessons online. I'm not sure what that's going to look like or if they're even going to be able to make it happen, but we do recognize that right now this is really heavy technology based, and if we're, for whatever reason, students are unable to view the lessons online, is there an alternative for them? Don't know that we're going to be able to come up with an answer for that, but I do know that we are working on it.
Excellent. Yes. And that's a great point, because again, if the students don't have access to technology, they're not able to see these. Also, remember that Khan Academy is partnered with College Board, and Khan Academy has some amazing channels set up on their resources. So that is another place that you can go to find some pre-recorded material. Somebody did ask in the chat box, how do we know if the students have watched these videos, or how do we know if they've seen these or access them? That's going to be something that you and your district needs to decide. If these videos are going to become part of your distance learning or these AP resources, it will be your responsibility as a school and as a district to create a check system there, a checks and balances, whether you create a formative assessment after the session, whether you have the students respond in some way or give you feedback. That's going to be something that you talk about with your district and make sure that they're aware. That's something that you'll need to figure out as you're going through those. Not
Robin,
every, yeah, go ahead.
Can I just add in that may be a great way for you to use the My Classroom tools. One of the best practices that we're hearing some teachers are using is that they are viewing the lessons as well, and then going into My Classroom and doing the personal and assigning the personal progress checks, or assigning the personal progress checks first, but then also they're making their own quizzes using the item bank. So you can, one way to see if they are watching the videos is you watch them, and then from that you're able to assign the progress checks, or to find your own items that you think are appropriate based on the content that was viewed.
Excellent. And we're going to talk about how we can use our AP connection here within the state of Oklahoma to share these resources. We're going to talk about that. But I wanted you guys to make sure that you saw that there are 2 separate pages where information is going out from College Board, that it's going out to the AP Central and the AP students. So I wanted you to know, bookmark both of those. That's what I've done. I greatly appreciate how College Board dates the top of it, so you can know if you're reading the most current and most up-to-date information. Those are the 2 main places to access. Like Arlene said, be checking your email as information comes. I am trying not to overload your email, but I will be sending out a weekly or every other week AP Gov delivery So that's the same. If you got the email last week from me with this, and maybe you got 2 because I might have put 11 p.m. as our meeting today instead of 1 p.m. Sorry, guys. But you will be getting that information. I am trying not to overload you, but I'm trying to synthesize the information and put it all in one place. So you can expect those about once a week. You'll probably be expecting them on a Thursday or a Friday because we will be hosting these virtual check-ins once a week, and I want to give you a recap of what's going on there. Something else that I want to take us a little bit away from College Board for just a second, and I want to talk to you about what the State Department has provided. Many of you teach other courses besides AP, and you teach and you have other preps to be thinking about. And so I wanted to show you what the Office of Curriculum and Instruction has put together so that you have some information. This webpage was linked right in the agenda. It is right here, the distance learning landing page. The other way that you have is, if you'll notice, the banner across the top changes. And so when it gets to the green banner, that is the banner that is going to get you to instructional support. And these are resources just for you and your district as you're thinking about distance learning. And what does that look like? So these are just some leveled guidance that we have created. And I mentioned the content directors at the beginning of this meeting, and they deserve every bit of the credit because they have put these documents together. So we're going to click here on the 6 through 12 ELA. And what you can see is that these are questions to be thinking about when planning for distance learning. And so these give you some suggestions of time frames in a day to think about. How can you be providing information to students? How can you get feedback coming back in creative, collaborative environments? So there's questions here to think about. We also want to make sure that you have direct links to special education and ELL. Many of your students sitting in your classroom are students that are served in the special ed classroom or through ELL. So these are their 2 websites that are full of information specifically for you during this time of distance learning. And then there are some example activities. So there are some activities that have been given here that can be done at home. Many of these are low tech or no tech resources that you can be doing. So you can click right here on this example activity, and it's going to take you to a Google document that is full of some resources that you can be doing, your students can be doing at home with their families and as activities. They're right here. It is a Google document because this is something we can update and add to, especially as you are adding new information to us. The one thing you need to know is this instruction page opens in itself. Everything's not a new tab. So as I cleared out the document, I cleared out my tab. So I was just in this guidance document here, but you can see the sample learning tasks are here. If you have some great tasks that you have done with your students, we would love to hear from you. This link here takes you to a Google form that you can fill out and share your resources. This is especially a time that we work smarter, not harder, and we share these resources. And the content area directors will be updating those pages. Just somebody asked, are we going to have virtual meetings for specific courses? And the answer is yes. As you can see, there's a plethora of virtual meetings that will be happening every week. Many of these started on Friday and the rest are finishing up today. So this initial link here that you're seeing, these are the first round that we have. But inside the guidance documents is talking about when these will happen on a regularly scheduled basis. And so for us, for AP, our meetings were right here at the bottom. Last but not least, we will be meeting every Wednesday from 3 to 4 o'clock. This will be a time for us to come together to share resources like this. Every meeting will have a little bit different structure based upon what I'm hearing that you need or want, and making sure you have a place to come get connected and get your questions answered. Every one of these will be recorded. We are working on a landing page right now where all of those recordings will happen. The recordings take a smidge bit more time because they are closed captioned, and so we are getting those taken care of. I do want to make it very clear that our meeting will start next week because this first one is just in 2 days for us. We will not, as AP, have a second meeting available right now. This week, we will wait till next week. That'll also allow us to get the guidance from College Board that has come out at the end of the week and make sure you are clear about it. But if you teach a content area other than this, feel free to look at those. See if you're an ELA teacher, you can join Jason and his every Friday at 2 o'clock. Science, social studies, all of those other areas. So we do have these available. Please join it only 10 minutes prior to the meeting. We ask that because the speakers from the State Department, since we are virtually working, we come together before the meeting starts to make sure we're all on the same page. Our rooms do hold 300 teachers at a time. Right now we have about 200 on our meeting, and so we should have space for you all, but in case that we don't, we have those recordings for you. Someone asked about special education. They have resources on their website. I know they are hosting some of these virtual chats so that they can get connected to you and answer your questions. So Jason has put the link in the chat box. Make sure you click on Special Ed's website so that you can get back to their information. The other thing too is that the SDE is putting out COVID-19 FAQs. These are being updated on a weekly basis. And so there is a direct link right here. If you'd like to click on that, this is where you're going to find a lot of information. Some of you not only do AP, but you do concurrent or career tech and other pieces. So you will have some information within there. Those two also have the date at the top so that you know that you're reading the most current information. And then here is the Zoom link. We will be using the same Zoom link every week from here on out. So all you need to do is bookmark this link and you can join every week on Wednesdays at 3 o'clock to join our weekly AP meeting. And Russell, thank you so much for your comment about separating secondary and middle school, or high school and middle school into two. That's a great piece. I know Jason Stevenson, our secondary director for ELA, is listening. I will make sure and get that back to my teammates so those meetings don't fill up. We'll see what we can balance. We share a few Zoom accounts at the State Department, so we're making sure to get all of those added in. So we're just coming up to the end of the hour. So I'm gonna shoot it back to Arlene and see if Arlene has anything else that she'd like to share with us. As you guys are thinking through, if there's any questions that did not get answered or more information that has come up, please feel free to use the chat box at this time. As we finish up, we'll try to get as many questions answered. So Arlene, what closing thoughts or more information would you like to share with us?
No more information. I really just want to say thank you to all of you who are on the call and who are continuing to do good works for your students. It is so heartwarming in these crazy times that we are living in to work with educators who really are concerned for their students and making sure that all students have access and the ability to continue to learn and to grow. Know that the College Board shares that commitment. We are getting answers out as fast and furious as we can. I will connect with Robin after this call to make sure that every question in the chat box, if it's not on the FAQ that's going to come out on Friday, then Robin and I will work, and I will talk with program to make sure that you get answers. We want to help you to do what you're doing well. So we hope that we are not adding any additional anxiety to you. I know that some of that is just because you don't have the answers that you're wanting. They are coming. And if we don't answer a question, you have my email information. Either email Robin or email me directly, and we will get you an answer as quickly as we can.
And I just want to reiterate what Arlene says. My job right now is to support you guys in whatever way that I can. So if that's answering questions, if it's providing resources, if it's being your biggest advocate, please let us know what we can do to help you and support you at this time. The last thing I want you to see before we head away today is I have put a survey form right here. I want to make sure that you are getting on these weekly calls what you need and what you want. So this will be a feedback form. If you could take some time today or tomorrow to answer that, tell us what you need, what you want when you come to these meetings, what would make it beneficial for you each week. And we will do our best to support you and provide the resources that you have and that you need. I'm trying to think ahead and what you might need, but let me know specifically. I am also just an email or a phone call or a text away. So reach out to me. I am more than happy to help you in any way that I can at this point. So someone asked, can we post the link to the agenda in the chat box? And we most definitely will get that to you. The other thing that someone asked is about the recording. The recording takes a couple of days. I will make sure that you have the link to where the recordings are housed. So we'll have an AP of all the recordings and dated of exactly where they are so that they are housed for everyone. And a really great point someone brought up about APSIs. Arlene and I had a good talk about this earlier in the week, and I have reached out today to both OU and NSUBA. At this point, right now, at 1:59 on Monday the 30th, they are still happening. We have not canceled anything for APSI in June at this point. But because they are housed at OU and NSUBA, we have to go with what the universities are doing for safety of theirs. So we will keep you updated. A few of you have emailed me and I told you I would get back with you. But at this point right now, the most current I know is that they are still on. Arlene, as far as you know, are they still on at this point? We may have lost Arlene. Let's see, Arlene, you might have gotten, I'm going to unmute you. There you go, Arlene.
Yes. That's actually the university's call,
Okay.
right? So each of the universities will determine for themselves whether or not the APSIs will be held or be canceled. College Board, we will support whatever the universities make, whatever their decisions are.
Okay, excellent. And I'm so sorry I throw acronyms out because we're in education and that's what we do. APSI is AP Summer Institute. So those are the intensive 4-day workshops that are available in the summer. OU is hosting one week in June and 1 week in July. And NSUBA is hosting 3 weeks in June and 1 week in July. They still have spots available. If you're interested, you can go to the APPD page on the State Department of Ed and sign up for those. They do come with a $50 registration fee, but the other $600 is covered by the State Department of Education. So we will be working with those universities and get that information to you. The other thing that a couple of you have asked is those one-day trainings. We had to reschedule because of some conflicts, and Arlene and I are not going to let those slip past. So the one-day trainings that were in the 4 areas of science and art and computer science, because this summer is very up in the air and unsure, we are moving those to the fall. So be rest assured that there will be some one-day trainings for 4 areas of science, the 2 computer sciences and the 2 arts. This fall, they are free of charge. I need them to happen because I have about 800 pounds of books in my office that I need to get out to you guys that have already been delivered. So be on the lookout for those. But right now, I appreciate your flexibility and your patience as we all move one day at a time, as we move forward as best as we can. Do know that information is changing on a daily, if not hourly basis. And I appreciate you guys more than anything for being here today. Your presence shows how much you care and your dedication. And I thank you. My job is to support you in any way I can. So please reach out, stay healthy, stay safe. And I will see all of you again, hopefully soon. But know that next Wednesday, the 8th at 3 o'clock, I think next Wednesday's the 8th, whatever next week is, we'll have that date and we'll have our next meetup. So thank you guys so much for coming. The recording will be up soon and you'll be getting an email with all of the links very shortly. So have a great day, guys, and we'll see you soon.